Hi, what's up, adventurers? So we're out here at Uwharrie National Forest to do some baseline testing of the mostly stock GX before we start doing all the mods. So before we get rolling, let's do some quick measurements to check where the ground clearance points are and what we're working with from the start. Before we hit the trails, we've got to hit the Eldorado Outpost for some pre-Jeep Trail Essentials. Sure, it's got Uwharrie swag like t-shirts, hats, and other stuff you'll want. It also has some stuff you might need, some stuff you probably forgot, and southern favorites like Cheerwine, Mountain Dew, and Dr. Pepper. You also need to buy a day pass for the trails. Every vehicle needs one displayed. But the real reason to go is the cafe, because they've got chicken tendies, seasoned potato wedges, and homemade biscuits. But the real treat is the chicken fried pork on an egg and cheese biscuit. Get there early, because they'll sell out by 9 a.m. You can skip the pickled eggs though. If there's any doubt that this is popular with the Jeep crowd, just watch them come and go out of the parking lot. They range from mostly stock to purpose-built rock crawlers, and Uwharrie has trails to challenge them all. Alright, time to get moving. Before I got on the trail, I measured the ground clearance at all the major points. Starting from the back, the hitch is 16.5 inches, rear diff is 9.5 inches, the gas tank sits 11 inches off the ground, muffler is 11.5 inches, frame is 14 inches, exhaust crossover is annoyingly low at 9.5 inches, the front diff skid plate is 9 inches, and the lowest point on the forwardmost skid plate is 9.25 inches. The panel just in front of the wheel is 13.5 inches, and the forwardmost tip of the bumper is 17.5 inches. From the Eldorado Outpost, heading into Uwharrie on Highway 109, you'll turn right onto Reservation Road. Pass the campground on the right, then immediately turn right onto Forest Service Road 576. From here, onX is your friend as it'll guide you to the different trails. Alright, so the last measurement to do is the actual tire size. So these should, by the numbers, measure out to 31.5 inches, which is almost exactly what I'm at. It's 31.25-ish. So that's at about 38 PSI. So we're gonna drop these down and we'll remeasure. Alright, so I only went down to 25 PSI because these are not the most aggressive tires. I don't know how old they are because these came with the truck, and there is a little bit of like slight cracking and stuff. So the other thing is they don't have the big side lugs like a proper all-terrain tire does, so I don't have a lot of sidewall protection. So just to play it safe, I'm not going crazy low with the air pressure, and at 25 PSI it's sitting at like 29 and 7/8 high. So I didn't lose a ton, maybe 3/8 inch total ground clearance just from letting that air out. So we're gonna give this a whirl and see how it goes. There's a lot of this dirt road out here too. I mean, you'll see Subarus and unmodified SUVs out here all the time, and then you'll see the crazy Jeeps to get into the big stuff. So the blacks here are incredibly hard, and you need a big Jeep to do those. So we're gonna skip those and stick to the tamer trails and some of these dirt roads just to get a feel for it. We rolled down Dutch John Road, a well-maintained dirt road that leads to the Flatwood OHV parking area. There are several parking areas to unload your ATV, side-by-side, or non-street legal Jeep. The dirt roads are all Forest Service roads for licensed vehicles, but once you're on the trails, you can connect most, if not all of them, without getting back onto the roads. Alright, here we go, getting ready to hit the first trail. Just saw a bunch of side-by-sides coming off of it, but it is a two-way trail, so get rolling. This is the Falls Dam Trail. Doesn't look like much, but as you can see, I'm jostling already. My buddy Rob came out in his Tacoma Pre-Runner. It's got a V6, but it's only rear-wheel drive. And we still got away with a lot, which is one of the great things about Uwharrie, is that there are a lot of blue and green trails that made it pretty fun for lightly modified vehicles too. I used this hump to get a feel for breakover clearance. It's a simple test that lets you know when you might need to hit these at a diagonal rather than go straight over them. We drove the trails shortly before they closed for the season in mid-December. Surprisingly, they weren't totally rutted out, and it hadn't really rained that week, so the trails were good and dry. Alright, so for now I'm gonna keep it in 4 high, even though we got a hill up ahead and just see what it does, but I'm gonna get the center diff lock going so you can see center diff's on. So now it's 50-50 front and rear, and let's roll. Just a word of warning, this dirt gets sticky and packs up when it's wet, so plan your trips and your tires accordingly. Another nice thing about the trails is there are little options on many of them. Want to ride high and roll over some rocks and more technical stuff? Go for it. Or take a smoother path if you or your vehicle aren't quite up for it. That said, having good ground clearance is key. We ended up stopping to pull Rob's step bars off after they dug into the ground a few times. Ooh. And yeah, you'll probably still hit something now and then. From Falls Dam Trail, we made our way to Lakeview Trail, passing through 2 more parking areas that made for a great snack break. While none of this looks super technical, it's still quite fun and challenging. There are enough line choices to keep it interesting, and for a shakedown ride to see what a vehicle is capable of, it's perfect. But we were coming up on the more aggressive terrain. Lakeview Trail ends at Wolf Den Road, and if you shoot straight across, you'll transition from the easy green trail to a more difficult, more technical blue trail, also called Wolf's Den. This led to a junction with Dutch John Trail, which has an aggressive entry. We took full advantage and got some wheels off the ground, but that was about as far as we went. I had originally mapped us onto Dutch John, but after assessing Rob's rear-wheel drive truck's progress thus far, we decided to stick to Wolf's Den and see how far we could go there, as it has easier exits if we needed to bail. Wolf's Den was much rockier, which had me a little concerned about the SL-rated tires on our rigs. I've since upgraded to bigger, tougher C-rated tires that I'll show you in the next video, so I'm ready to go back. Fortunately, we got out without any scratches or flats, but we did have a little drama. We cut over on a side trail to Sawmill Trail, a green, because it would connect us to Rocky Mount Loop, a blue, that spits out back near the main entrance road, putting us on our way home. Well, after getting sidelined for 2 massive convoys of Jeeps, Rob's truck needed a little traction board recovery to get back on the trail, and upon the advice of the Jeep drivers coming down that trail, we decided to play it safe to backtrack to Wolf Den and cut out. We'd already been on the trail for about 5 hours, so we weren't really heartbroken about cutting out a little early. Alright, back there's where we had to turn around because we were coming up on a slab pile, and apparently even some of the Jeeps were struggling with that. So we are headed back to get on the greens and start heading out. One of the popular things to do with your Jeep here at Uwharrie is drive up on the rock just to get the gram. And so I figured while we're here, if we're testing this thing out, we might as well try it, right? Just ease into it, you know, just like this. No. Just kidding. Alright, this is a little bit of last bit of blue trail on the way out, some new stuff we haven't hit before. Kind of a tight turner coming into it. And a good bit of rock. I'm just gonna kind of see what I can do crawling on this. It's definitely, with all the power in this V8, it's a little lurchy, so I've got it in 4 low. I've got the second start on, so I'm starting in second gear. I'm starting instead in second gear instead of first to kind of reduce that initial like just poppy torque, but it's still, this thing just has so much power that it's really easy to just like lurch, and especially in reverse too. So it just takes a lot of really gentle throttle control to avoid, you know, just, I mean, I haven't spun the wheels because of it, but it's just, you sort of like can bounce around, maybe not where you want to go immediately, unless you're really, really careful. All right, all in all, that was a really good test of the vehicle, just with nothing more than slightly larger tires than stock and admittedly like a quasi all-terrain tread. But man, the four-wheel drive is just incredible. 4 low, this thing just crawls up everything, you know, minimal tire slippage if any, unless we're just doing something stupid. Great articulation. That's what impressed me the most, is like seeing that rear wheel up in the air and seeing how much flex the wheels had. You know, the axle, or solid axle in the rear, you know, the independent front, the independent arm in the front is what it is, right? But it just did so good crawling over that stuff, and I think with just a little bit of a lift and bigger tires, which is stuff I planned on anyway, this thing's going to be really capable of going anywhere I want to go on an overlanding trip, right? Like a lot of the vehicles I see, and I get that envy of people with 35s and 37s and, you know, 3 and 4 inches of lift, but the mods and, you know, just the extreme customization you have to do to make that stuff fit and work, from the re-gearing and the body mods to clear the tires and everything else, is really a bit much for, you know, true overlanding and just getting out and exploring stuff, you know, like this. Like this would be the extreme end of what I would want to do in a vehicle that's not built to be a rock crawler. And I think for all practical purposes, that's what most of us are doing anyway. And to be honest, with what I got away with 0 lift and 31.5-inch tires, I'm thinking with 33-inch and a 2-inch lift, man, it's really going to be a very capable machine. So that's what's in the plans. Now it's time to start figuring out which brands, you know, how we're going to lay it all out. So stay tuned. If you're liking this series, hit like, hit subscribe, and follow along, because we're just going to start documenting every mod we do. And just like with the stuff that we took the weight off, every mod we're doing, we're going to weigh the things that we're putting on and weigh the stuff we're taking off to see how it all balances out. And yeah, see how we can build up this thing as light as possible without giving up its performance and capability. Thanks for watching.